to your point about people talking about it, the world has changed. Now, okay, I'm going to wind the clock back even, about 3 years ago, a friend of mine literally rang me and said, I'm really sorry, Aaron, we're having a barbecue, but we can't invite you, okay? We love you and all, but we can't invite you because your political opinions are very different to some of the people at the barbecue. And we're worried.
Front about
it. Yeah. No. And I love him for his honesty, right? Yeah. He said, because I know that the other people there are so angry about your opinions that they may even become violent.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Now, that same person now talks to me very openly about all of this sort of thing, right? Wow. So when we were, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, the pariah, we were the ones who were on the outside. Mm-hmm. This is now general conversation. We have opened enough eyes. That when I say that we, it's the royal we, it's the we of the independent media, the voices, the people who have actually stood up for themselves and want to be heard. It's a very positive thing. And I kept always saying back in the cough days, when we were doing the rallies for the woohoo flu, I was saying we will head for a tipping point. It will come. Mm-hmm. My word, we're close, mate. Welcome to The Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia. The gentleman over here with the knowledge, with the power, and in a moment, a cup of tea. I can see it coming from the other room there. It is, of course, Derek Whittaker. Derek, get yourself hydrated, mate. Very, very important.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry, very much. What a wonderful service. I tell you right now. Can I get a latte, thanks? It is, of course, a time for The Greater Wealth. The great collision between politics and finance, and so what, hasn't there been a bit of a collision lately? It's a demo derby at the moment.
Oh, look, there's never short of a report, especially when it comes to the black gold called oil, and it's been interesting to watch. I mean, how do you feel about this? People hoarding. In some people's terms, I hate the word hoarding.
I'm not.
Is it preparation? No. I think it's preparing for when they take the jerry cans out and they grab some extra litres of oil. Do you think that's fair?
I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. In my mind, I think it's important to be prepared for things, and the cost of oil, of course, oil hasn't changed a lot, but geez, petrol prices have certainly changed.
I mean, people are going on about Bunnings, even the Prime Minister's talking about Bunnings running out of jerry cans. And I'm going, are we to blame the jerry can provider at this time?
You know what? Opportunity 101, okay? Right now, Bunnings are rubbing their hands together, and look to Jerry. Jerry, I'm glad you're making a fortune. It is great.
Sounds like a show about nothing.
That could be Edge's theme from here at this point onwards. But it's so true, though.
I'm not going to ask how many fall in that category, but anyway.
I cannot believe our own PM has bought in on the don't buy jerry cans. It's un-Australian. Un-Australian. Are you kidding me, mate? That is just...
What are they going to do in the bush?
Oh,
right? They need it on the land. They need it on the farms. Have you ever been on a farm? How long has it been to, some Australians and politicians and bureaucrats have been on a farm?
It has been a long time. Look, there are tractors bigger than my house, okay? And these things take fuel. And guess what? That without those incredible devices, tractors, harvesters, all those goodies, we can't get this thing. It's a very complicated thing. It's called food, right? Yeah. They can't run cattle, they can't run sheep, they can't run all of these things, they can't grow our food. Yeah. This is just, it's ludicrous.
The tractor cannot pull over after paddock 7, right, to fill up, right?
No, it cannot, exactly.
The fuel has to come to it.
Well, and if you're going to go with the Bowen theory, okay, with Chris Bowen, I mean, maybe that could be electric. Maybe what our farmers can do is run a very big extension cord all the way out there over thousands of acres to do it. It is crazy. Yeah. But what you've made, the point you made about the fact of hoarding, I totally agree with you. It is not hoarding in any way, shape or form.
I saw a video that's gone viral over social media about somebody lambasting this bloke who's filling up his back boot with a lot of jerry cans. And I thought, I hate the judgment on this.
Yeah.
You don't know his background. You don't know if he runs a business, he's got to have this fuel for a long distance. You don't know, but people jump to conclusions.
Don't we see judgment thrown around so much? It is absolutely off the charts at the moment. Well, and I'm going to say off the moment. Every time there's a crisis, now I'm going to go straight for the jugular on this. I mean, I don't think it's a secret. I'm not fond of our Prime Minister. I don't know if I've kept that a secret.
Are you judging him?
I am so judging him. He has, now look, I've always said for many years, I've said that the worst Prime Minister Australia ever had was Julia Gillard. Okay. Now, what Albanese's done, he's looked at her and said, hold my beer. I'm going to knock this out of the park. I really am. He's just insane. And the way he virtue signals, which is virtue signaling is to my mind anyway, a great sign of weakness. It's his way of saying to the world that I don't hold any value, therefore I have to, I have to fake my value through other people's causes. It's ridiculous.
What's really interesting about all this is One Nation's rise at the moment. And I saw a post that One Nation put out there about how much GST the government is collecting because of the increase of fuel prices that have gone up, and they've made like 300 and something million simply because the prices have gone up.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, we've got an opposition that isn't quite an opposition yet, but is acting as the opposition. And I thought that's really interesting what's going on. Meantime, this serious pressure headlines from this left-wing news outlet I've got here. Albanese cuts fuel excess by, I love this number, 26.3 cents per litre for 3 months. I love the 0.3. And it will
change my life, that 0.3.
It will make a difference. It will. Because, I mean, you think of how many litres of fuel you pump into the engine, or the tank, I should say, and you burn up. Well, that 0.3 could be millions and millions of dollars right there.
Yeah, there's a point. I agree. I mean, to my mind, I don't think he's gone anywhere near far enough on it. I think that, and also as Australians, we need to understand that they put the tariff on, or the excise, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's a nice way of saying tax without the X in it. And then once they've got to that total, then they put the GST on top as well. So you've got a double bonus on that. The amount of money that they're picking up, like you said, that they're picking up with this extra tax and the excise as it remains, it's just ludicrous.
When you pull the curtains back, though, it gets really interesting, Aaron, on this whole thing, right?
Let's do that.
War is always going to be controversial. Let's just say, who's right, who's wrong. We always want black and white answers, okay? Yes, and I think that's dangerous sometimes because we ignore the complexities of the situation. And Pete Hesketh, who is in charge, of course, of the US military in the US, absolutely got to watch my words here, but he had this to say on the whole issue of Iran. Take a look at this video. This is really confirming some suspicions that a lot of people have had for a while.
Let's have a listen.
Check it out.
Many of the Iranian military factories and bases that we're systematically destroying were paid for by the pallets of American cash that Barack Obama flew into Tehran under the Iran deal. You might call it an inconvenient truth. Iran took our money and turned it into weapons and bunkers and ammo. And now we're destroying those weapons, and you're writing, Mr. President, that grievous wrong. And make no mistake, we had to act. And our objectives are clear. No nukes, no Navy, and a complete dismantling of their missile program and defense industrial base. And as Marco pointed out, that mission, and the VP as well, has not changed since day one. Yet,
did you hear what he just said?
I did, very much so.
Barack Obama was sending funds over to Iran.
I remember the famous $8 billion that was sent over there at some point. That's not a small change. I've looked through these couches, can't find $8 billion, mate. I'm telling you right now, it is the amount of money laundering that has taken place, buying arms, all that kind of thing, funding, backhanded deals for regime, ownership. I was going to say change, but it's not. It's about owning people. And when I say owning, having the power over them. I think that's the big thing. This Barack Obama, who got the Nobel Peace Prize just for the color of his skin, which that's what happened. Let's be very frank with that. Before he was even president, that man has caused so much damage to America and so much damage to the world. Thank God for a man like Trump. He might annoy you the way he phrases things. He might annoy you the way he goes on, and he might not be always the nicest person or presidential, but he's having to clean up a hell of a mess.
Well, pull back again. He said, I'm going to drain the swamp. That was his promise.
That's right.
And you see this sort of stuff going on. Now, the Republicans are saying, at least we now have a president who has, Iran has flexed its muscle for the last 47 years. We finally got a president who will come in and do the hard work and actually clean it up and remove the threat of Iran with their nuclear capabilities and all the other stuff they want to do. And I think what's been a bit of a shock to people is this stance that got to be careful here, because you go, how much of this is propaganda? How much of this is truth? And all this sort of stuff. And so what they're claiming is that the missile capabilities that Iran was developing could have hit many European cities.
Now, just been actually reading a little bit about that, the long distance stuff, because that's always been the issue, right? When we weren't, back the clock's sort of, nearly 65 years, what was the Cuban Missile Crisis all about? Okay. It was about the long range missiles from Cuba. Yeah. Now, 65 years is a long time ago. Tech has changed just a little bit over that time. So now these distances are real. I mean, it's very realistic that you can send a missile that far.
When we've got the richest man who can launch a rocket, and then catch it again as it comes back onto Earth and use it another few times, a number of times to launch things from. You're definitely right. The technology has changed.
That's right.
And so where we bring in the European element, this is really fascinating because this, of course, triggers the whole thing about the relationship the United States has to NATO. Have a look at this video here where Trump has this to say.
I don't want to get dragged into their wars either. You know, it's one thing we're very disappointed, I'll say it publicly, we're very disappointed with NATO. Because NATO has done absolutely nothing. And I've always said, 25 years ago, I mean, I was somebody that wasn't a politician, but I was always involved in politics and I understood politics. I said 25 years ago that NATO's a paper tiger, but more importantly, that we'll come to their rescue, but they will never come to ours. And I want you to remember that we said this, they didn't come to our rescue. Now they all want to help. When they're annihilated, the other side is annihilated, they said, we'd love to send ships. They actually made a statement, a couple of them, that we want to get involved when the war's over. No, it's supposed to get involved when the war's beginning, or even before it begins. We had the UK say that we'll send, this is 3 weeks ago, we'll send our aircraft carriers, which aren't the best aircraft carriers, by the way. They're toys compared to what we have. But we'll send our aircraft carrier when the war is over. I said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Don't bother. We don't need it. And we don't need it, and we don't need them. We estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission, and we're way ahead of schedule.
And that's really interesting where this comes in, because it raises a number of questions about the relationship that America has with Europe, NATO. I mean, back in 2024, the vice president, Vance, went there and said, you need to become more, less reliant on the US to come fight your wars and battles for you. And of course, this leaves them all devastated and in shock. And now they're trying to push the button going, you know what? This is the whole point. We get into a conflict. You're not there for us. You're very reluctant. You want to come afterwards. Now, there's also the other flip side of that argument. And it's
what is this?
Well, you want to be reluctant going into a fight and into a war. And because you don't know, what are you committing your country's boys and girls to, right? And potential bloodshed and lives being lost. And you've also got the thing where Trump is an action man. He's a businessman. Make a decision, act on it. And you can see the difference between him and a politician. He is not a diplomat.
That's right.
He is not a politician. Whereas you're dealing on the international stage with diplomats and politicians who are going to be very slow in making decisions compared to him.
Oh, glaciers move quicker than politicians, right?
So that's an issue too. And so it raises a lot of questions for me in terms of where's the United States going to go in its relation with NATO. And I think what's coming out is, well, NATO probably is going to have its own investigation at some point as well, because does Europe need America? Absolutely. And that's come to the forefront and mission as well. No doubt about it. Does the United States need NATO? Not as much as Europe needs the United States.
My thought is this: NATO is finished its purpose. It doesn't have any use anymore. It is something, it's a spent force. It was there theoretically to draw a line there to actually create that buffer zone in the Cold War. Now, the Cold War doesn't exist anymore, certainly in the form it was before. Those countries that were the buffer zone have all basically gone and done their own thing to an extent and made their own alliances. NATO, in my mind, is a toothless tiger, a spent force, a waste. Again, it comes down to, like everything in life, there's so much of this money laundering, there's so much of this pandering, there's so much of this looking after bureaucrats and people in power that just shouldn't be in power. Okay? So many years we've heard, oh, gee, wouldn't it be great if America or a country was run by a businessman, rather than a politician? Well, that's happening in the US, and people are resistant to it.
Yeah,
you can't have. The world of politics has become so corrupt and so filthy and so muddy, and has become that swamp, right? That Trump has said that he wishes to drain. when you see NATO to me is just a swamp now, and I think it is time that fill it in and move on.
Yeah, I think it's going to come out what the globalists were using NATO for in these organisations. They may have started with good intentions when they began, but half a century now, it's a different agenda. It wasn't there. It's not doing what it was originally set up to do, perhaps, or maybe it was. We'll find out. And so. This is what you might be thinking, well, what has this got to do with me? What has this got to do with finance? And it's what we try to do with our students at Blue Sky Factory is prepare them for what's around the corner and try to be 3 steps ahead of the game. And I've got a video on what's about to happen, or it's being signaled in just a moment. But the reason I'm saying this is, okay, oil prices going up. Is that opportunity in the trading markets to capitalise on that, right? That's
I would tend to think so.
Yeah, I belong to an investment group, and they were talking about it before it happened when fuel prices here locally were like $1.46, and they're saying, we believe oil's going to go up, oil's gone up, bang, they did that happen. And so it's being ahead of the game and preparing. Now, the theme that I have is, and for a long time, is prepare, be prepared. And
hence the jerry cans, mate.
Hence the jerry cans. I've got a few, and I've had them for years, right, for that very reason, because the last thing you want is, I kind of look at it this way. I follow some interesting stuff. This one guy who teaches a guy called Dr. Kevin Zadar, who has contacts with people who have worked for 3-letter agencies in the United States. He says they have a line that if the tank is half full, it's half empty. Okay. So so if it gets to that half point, you're actually empty. And so I'm always thinking, if I want to go from Perth to Albany and I have to do it in the middle of the night for an emergency or whatever, ready. I want a tank to be able to get there and back without hesitation or question. I don't want to have to line up at a petrol station when everybody's trying to get there and do that. I want to be able to go.
On that front, about lining up at the petrol station, I've seen all the images of the fuel crisis in the early 70s, with, running out of fuel, big signs out the front and lines down the road, like literally, a mile down the road. Yep. Did I ever think I'd live in a time like that? No way in the world. And to me, this is a completely artificial crisis. That's my opinion. I base it on the fact of, that we are supposed to have fuel security. We're supposed to have those 90 days of.
We've been talking about it for the last 2 years. You and I talking about how Australia is not prepared for its shipping lines to be breaking down, and we're seeing again the weakness of supply chains. It should have been a wake up call when the microchip shortage happened. During the 2022, roughly around that time, and you couldn't get a new car on the market, and so we had a weird market in the economics of things where an old car was actually appreciating as opposed to depreciating.
That's right. I remember in that period, literally, somebody offered me over twice what I paid for my car. Because they wanted one, and obviously the lines were too long and there was weights not going to carry, like twice what I paid. Insane. That is not normal economics.
My mate, he had a Hilux, and he's ringing me trying to sell it and that sort of stuff. He said to me, Derek, should I take this offer? This guy's offering me the same price I bought it for 8 years ago. I'm like, sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Well, if only I'd spoken to you, because that's what happened to me. Someone offered me twice what I paid, literally, near on 10 years ago. But I got, no, I'm sentimental. I'll hold on to it. So I get very attached to my car.
That's dangerous.
I know. There's a problem. I've got other issues.
But tell me about your mother.
Again, back on the couch, I'll lay down and away we go. But there's so much to this, and I think that people need to be prepared. I think, and you need to look. I don't know. Just think outside the box.
We have to recognise the world is changing. Right, and borders are changing, politics is changing, flavours of governments are changing. You can either sit there and say this is right or this is wrong, and I respect your opinion, whatever it might be. And I'll defend your right to have an opinion rather than shut it down and this sort of stuff. But the point is, you've got to get over the politics blocking you from actually building wealth, which a lot of people I think fall prey to. They call it Trump derangement syndrome, or Trump calls it that himself. It's like, if you're going to sit there and that's going to be it, that's as far as you get. Well, unfortunately, you're missing out on all these other opportunities that are coming up. And right now, there is so much opportunity with the wealth transfer that's occurring. You either get with it and start preparing for it, or you stay stuck in that mindset.
Well, Terry clearly agrees. She's put a hot topic, guys. She's right on the ball on that one. So thank you, Terry, for that. Obviously, if you've got any questions, if you are watching right now on YouTube, if you've liked and subscribed and all that kind of carry on, please drop your comments, and we'd love to, or questions for that matter, and we can be part of it. Some formats will not allow us to see your questions till after the show, but YouTube is definitely the winner on that. So like and subscribe and do the YouTubey things. It'd be great.
So have a look at what's next. In this next video, Trump basically signals and says, oh, hang on, I should have let that cat out of the bag, or does he?
Now, is this the one about Cuba? I thought so.
No, but I was watching this and I'm hearing them saying, could he be losing the MAGA base? I don't think so. You know why? Because MAGA wants to win, number one. Number two, they want our country protected. They don't want another country out there that's hostile and crazy to have a nuclear weapon. And number three, they like us protecting certain allies, whether it's Israel or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or UAE, any of them. They want that. MAGA wants strength and they want victory. They want success. And that's what we have. And we have been very, very successful. You know, when I went into Venezuela, I said, because I campaigned on the fact peace through strength. And Cuba's next, by the way. But pretend I didn't say that, please. Pretend I didn't say that. Please, 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 media, please disregard that statement. Thank you very much. Cuba's next.
I love him. Honestly, even if you don't like his politics, enjoy his stand-up humour, right, okay? That guy could be filling Madison Square Garden. Come on. Look.
He did work in entertainment before.
He certainly did. He certainly did. Now, a comment that's come in here from the Silver, Western Australia. G'day, the Silver. Good to see your comment there. Yes, call out the fuel shortage. Yes, it's quite an issue, isn't it? Look, I've spoken to privately on the side here, and I've explained this, and we've done some social media about it. But I've actually spoken to some tanker drivers who have gone down to BP or whatever, I think it's BP, down there at Kwinana Refinery. There is fuel there, and they're not actually filling up from it. So there is fuel there. They are artificially holding it back to create supply and demand issues. That's what's happening. No ifs, no buts. Don't believe what the corporate media is going to tell you, because they have another agenda, of course. We are being scammed.
There's plenty of oil. But we've got to strengthen our supply lines anyway, regardless.
Correct.
And we need to become more independent and manufacture our own on our shore, and have our own refineries churning this out and not be dependent on bringing it in, importing it in. That's the big one. What I love about this whole era and the positives in this, I was always a silver lining when you talk to me, Aaron. You know that by now.
Oh, mate, you're all about the silver lining.
Somebody has a silver name there, so let's go with that.
We'll go with that.
Is that things that haven't been discussed that have been going on for hundreds of years are starting to now get into the mainstream. This next video highlights that, and it's saying things are not what they seem. And there's a great question in it, and I would throw this to you. While Trump has been out there educating the masses on why there should be no income tax and how America was better off no income tax, this video comes up. Check this out.
Print money for the government willy-nilly, then why do we have to pay taxes if they can just print money at will? I know it's a stupid question, but this next video is going to make you realize just how important that question is and why you need to start asking it of all the politicians.
If inflation isn't theft, then why can't people counterfeit money?
If they can just print money, why do we pay taxes?
Wow.
If inflation is not theft and we can just print money and we don't have enough money, we can just print more money and give everyone that doesn't have enough money. Why don't we just do that instead of paying taxes? Inflation is legal counterfeiting. Counterfeiting is criminal inflation. So central banking is a coordinated currency counterfeiting cartel that runs the world. It's a Band-Aid. You know what Milton Friedman said about inflation is that it's just like alcoholism. The good effects come early, right? You print the money, you have the drink, you feel good. The hangover comes later. The same is true of inflation. Every time the crisis comes, you have to print exponentially more money because there are exponentially more liabilities in the system from the last round of printing. And so this is why it's unsustainable, and this is why it always culminates in hyperinflation. Because the central bank has not only the precedent, but also the incentive to continue printing the money until the currency hyperinflates into worthlessness.
So putting that in context, this is why I think it's been really reluctant to reduce the current government in Australia, the taxes on fuel, because we ran the credit card a few years back with a thing like 19.
I was just going to ask if I need to mute you for that terrible coffee.
Well, I'm censoring myself, aren't I?
Just a bit.
Yeah. And so we ran the credit card up in that scandemic. And here we are with a financial bill that
we've got the hangover right now.
We've got the hangover. And so we printed money and away we go. And now we're finding a situation, we've got another crisis now. We'll call it the oil crisis. Well, we can't really reduce it quickly and too quickly because, hey, we've still got to pay the bill.
That's right.
And the interest on the bill. And so I think that's what we've got to, what I love is these discussions are coming into the mainstream now where people are waking up and going, hang on a second, how I look at money, how I value money.
Yep.
What is it? How is it created? What's actually going on here? Why can't we just print our way out of poverty?
Why can't we do it? Come on. We should not. I mean, people shouldn't happen.
With the resources in Australia, we should not have homelessness in this country.
It is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And the measures they're going to try and fix that are all Band-Aids, and they are not looking at the problem. And they're not spending the money where they need to. This is, I mean, there's so many things we could cover on this. But to your point about people talking about it, the world has changed. Now, okay, I'm going to wind the clock back even, about 3 years ago, a friend of mine literally rang me and said, I'm really sorry, Aaron, we're having a barbecue, but we can't invite you, okay? We love you and all, but we can't invite you because your political opinions are very different to some of the people at the barbecue. And we're worried.
Front about
it. Yeah. No. And I love him for his honesty, right? Yeah. He said, because I know that the other people there are so angry about your opinions that they may even become violent.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Now, that same person now talks to me very openly about all this sort of thing, right? Wow. So when we were, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, the pariah, we were the ones who were on the outside. This is now general conversation. We have opened enough eyes, that when I say that it's a royal we, it's the we of, the independent media, the voices, the people who have actually stood up for themselves and want to be heard. It's a very positive thing. And I kept always saying back in the cough days, when we were doing the rallies for the woohoo flu, I was saying we will head for a tipping point. It will come. My word, we're close, mate.
We are. And so what I'm looking at this is in terms of where we're going economically now is how do you stay ahead of the game even now?
Yep.
So we have come from the information age. You just highlighted that. Information's come out. Yeah. It's now becoming into the mainstream. What's next? Well, we've got to talk about the artificial intelligence age now. And I'm really toying with a topic that I want to get out there for people on how to prepare financially, but also career-wise for AI.
Okay.
How to prepare now, because it's learning very quickly and it's advancing very quickly, and it will change life, and it will have, I believe, an industrial revolution. Now, again, in that is opportunity.
I agree. Right? Now, before we go into the opportunity, while it's knocking, let's open up this great point from Terry's put in this comment as well. Trump is God's man, so we can't expect smooth sailing. The fallout could be intense. Not a bad point.
I love that perspective. I think here's the thing we've got to realise is that anytime you disrupt someone's cash flow, there's going to be bumps along the way.
Of course there is.
And so that's what Trump is doing. He is absolutely rocking the boat as far as systems are concerned, political, financial, economic. It's all being rocked and it's all coming out.
Thoroughly agree. And Silver's also made a comment about buying oil at the moment being certainly not being in line with petrol prices. Effectively, it's up on the screen for you. All right. And so back into your point, mate, I just wanted to get that.
So what I'm basically saying is let's prepare now for the next thing that's coming along, because it's easier to do it when it's easy, right? You don't prepare for a crisis and an emergency. It's a lot easier to prepare for a crisis when there's no crisis.
Correct.
And so that's kind of the approach that I've been taking for a number of years since 19 started coming about.
Again, that flu of yours, it's terrible.
I know, excuse me. I'll wear a face mask next week. Not. How do we prepare for that?
How do we prepare? Okay, well, okay. You've talked a lot about silver, silver and gold, good old precious metals. And obviously silver has done a lot over the last couple of years. Would that be somewhere that would be a good place to be?
I still think silver is fantastic personally.
Sure.
But I also see new opportunities now coming through and another wave of opportunity.
Tell me more.
Well, you look at where the big money's going.
Okay.
In terms of where the nations are signing deals and all this sort of stuff. What are they after? What's the common theme that's been coming over the last few years?
Well, tech, obviously.
Yeah, but what's tech got to run on?
Well, that's right. Okay, so we're talking about the resources of battery power and lithium and all those kind of goodies. And
some of that, yeah.
But precious metals.
The rare earths
is the word.
The rare earths thing is
that's where
a big thing. And so Australia's already moving in that direction with the deal that they've done with the United States. So, I'm kind of going, all right, well, let's be more fluid. Let's be more in terms of focus here, where are the next opportunities? So, still love those things, the silver and stuff like that.
Sorry, I was thinking more ground roots. I mean, I do actually completely appreciate what you're saying, because if we're going to have all of this tech, there's got to be something to run it. It's as simple as that. And, in my eyes, I'm blown away that we live in this country, that we've got a dependence on this and that. We should have nuclear power, okay? Guess what? It's been a long time since, they've been... But it's safe now. I mean, as safe as anything can be, right? So that's something we should be looking at. We can be looking at, Australia has all of these resources, all of these minerals, all of these precious commodities from the earth, that we should be living in a much higher state and a lot more independence, I guess.
One of the difficulties you have, Aaron, is that politicians don't really think 5 years ahead.
No,
they just think about 3-4 years.
The next election.
Win the next election and retain power. So that's the big thing, is we've got to have a mind shift here. Hey, what does the next 10 years, 20 years look like for Australia? Okay. And move towards that.
Think more as a statesman rather than somebody who's just trying to get themselves back in power.
Yeah. And keep a job.
Yeah. Well, and that's what they're doing. So, okay, from an investment point of view, the things that you're looking at specifically, like you've just told me, but how do I make that happen?
Well, I think education is really, really important.
I agree.
Because you can be aware of something, but throw stuff at the wind and try to hope to, it's like playing pin the tail on the donkey and you're blindfolded. I think you've got to be very strategic. You can't just throw that. But I also think it's important to be in community. Okay. Because you'll hear things and learn things from people in the room that are basically in that space and bring different knowledge spaces. I mean, I'm amazed how many times my students teach me something as well, and I'm always learning. Yeah. They bring in their life experiences and this, and I love that. So getting into that kind of community is important as well. We obviously try to provide that at Blue Sky Factory for people once they've done their courses and stuff like that. It's because we ruin people for life in a good way, because they can't go to their friends and talk about a lot of this stuff because their friends just haven't had that education.
It opens up a completely new world to you, and the world that's always been there, but the fact is it's been behind that curtain. And when you open that curtain, you pull it back, you do see behind Oz, you do see what's going on, you do see the fact that, I mean, the fiat system, the financial system, what a Ponzi scheme it basically is.
We're getting a new financial system.
It does seem that way.
I say prepare for it now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, mate. All right. Any other great thoughts that you'd like to empower with us?
I think finally, as I always say, is tied in with your life purpose. It's not just about money. It's not just about finance. It's not just about investing. It's what is it that what is your God-given assignment? And, a lot of people used to come to me for years, and when I worked in the law, accounting, financial planning firms, and say to me, I hate what I do. 80% of them hated what they do, and they're looking for escape and financial freedom, as they would call it. You have to define, well, what does that mean to you? And some people it means I want to retire by this age, and other people would say I want the choice to go to work and all this sort of thing. So, or I want to live off passive income from my investments as opposed to have to work for it, and if I want to work for it, great. Whatever that might be. But I think it's really, really important. It's coming back to what is it really meant to do? Because the one thing in common that I always discovered in those firms was this, is the guy on Centrelink and the trader making $30,000 to $40,000 a month had the one thing in common. And you know what that was?
What's that?
I just want a little bit more.
Interesting, isn't it?
Right? So it didn't really matter how much it was. It was, okay, this doesn't satisfy you. So what is going to give you fulfillment? That's the real question. And what is it that you're really meant to be doing? That's what we designed for our students, going, how do we get you into that space? And the finance simply serves that rather than you serve the finance.
I think you just nailed it right there. It is about service. If you wish to live your life purpose, you need the freedom to do so. I mean, you can't be restrained by just exchanging your time for an hourly rate or whatever. And that is not a disrespect to anybody who's doing that, because let's face it, we've all been there, done that. It's a big part of life. But when you can make that distinction and actually make the money work for you, creating the freedom, creating the time that you can live your life purpose, I think it is a seismic change.
It's about getting your time back. That's the biggest asset you've got. Once you spend it, it's gone. You can't get a refund on it. And I think that's really thing is allowing things to work for you and having systems in place where it works for you rather than you work for it.
And on that bombshell, we will end the show. Thank you very much for being part of the Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia.